the window had been busted out and part of our gear had been stolen.
There's nowhere to play up here at all.
I'm sitting there kind of by myself, like waiting for my marriage, and the mirrors, the mirrors kind of like spin open like 90 degrees, like they kind of rotate open, and all these women in sexy lingerie can come walking out from behind the mirrors.
I'm just going to throw this out there that it almost sounded like you were kind of the dark side sometimes of the scene.
Just when I'd parted ways with Monuments, and so it was really, really desperate time of my life.
At the end of it, our bass player told us, like, he just looked at us like, yeah, this is my last show.
So, like, basically back to the Beast era.
Dealing with this alcohol intake, and we're at a Christian festival, and we're supposed to be a Christian band. I was kind of like, man, this sucks. This is not a good look.
Welcome back, Darksiders, to another new episode of Dark Side of the Scene. I'm your host, Brandon.
And I'm Ed.
And we're back in business for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Woo! Exciting.
This is our first episode that we've recorded in several months. So everyone that's been listening, all that stuff was recorded back in June. So all 7 of you guys, we appreciate it.
You know what? 7's a lucky number.
Yes, it is.
Completely.
But we're going to be talking about some things here tonight that hit close to home. We're going to touch base on a couple topics that involve what we're doing here on the podcast and the future of the podcast. And Ed's going to talk about some things that happened with him and his band personally. We're not going to have a guest on tonight, so it's a little bit different. The guest tonight will just be Ed and us, or Ed and myself. I don't know why I said us. I guess I have multiple personalities.
Yes.
It happens. Anyways, so what's been going on, Ed? It's been a long time since we've done one of these.
It is weird because to the audience, it's a weekly episode, but again, they're pre-recorded. What's been going on with me? Well, I guess you remember the Pee Wee Herman show where they're like, the word of the day. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like, well, I think like today's word of the day is accountability, and why adults should, follow through with accountability of their actions. And, as most grown adults should, they should take accountability of their actions and not BS everybody. So I'll start first by saying I'll take accountability for my actions. Like, we have a few listeners on here, and, I have several friends that listen to this podcast, and one person in particular actually, he actually had to correct me on a story I had shared on the podcast, and I wanted to actually take accountability and retract what I said because it was false information, and because I owe that person the best, out of respect and kindness. Like, it's one of my ex-band members. His name's Jay, and I'll say his name because he's like one of the nicest, intelligent people I've ever met, But anyway, the story was I'd had it wrong. I had said, I don't remember which episode, I had said that he was mad because he was getting replaced, but basically he told me, he's like, no, that's not why I was mad. I was mad because the other member in the band, the way he was handling it, he didn't give me much respect for that. He just didn't give me a second thought about, my situation, and just decided, hey, it's like, he's going to replace me for a show. And I just thought that was kind of disrespectful. And I'm like, you're right. Now that I think about it, yeah, that's what had happened. Versus, Jay didn't get mad because he was getting replaced. It's just the idea of the other band member, how he handled it. So, out of respect for him and all listeners, I wanted to retract what I said because it had been so long. But when he told me, and I'm like, oh, shit. And I feel bad because he's one of the nicest people ever. And, so I take accountability for apologizing for that. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So yeah.
Sometimes
so if he's listening,
I was just say, sometimes we say things that we think we know and ends up being not true, and we don't intentionally do it, but we will always own up to it.
Right. And yeah, and I'll take I'll take the blame for that, for screwing that one up and, retracting what I said. But then there's other examples of accountability that people don't want to face.
We can talk about that here in a second, because there's some other accountability that I want to bring up before you jump into this one.
Sure.
Yeah. We'll get into the meat and taters here in a second, but
Taters.
I will take some accountability for certain things, but there are certain people out there that refuse to take accountability for anything. And some people would rather spread false information and try to personally attack what we do here at Dark Side of the Scene. We thought we had a good thing going. Others out there decided that we were racist and abusers and whatever else that they decided to claim against us. Anyone that knows who I am not an abuser. I am not a racist. If I was a racist, I wouldn't be having a podcast with someone who was not of the same race as me, which, if anyone didn't know, Ed would argue.
Right.
Like, you and I are not the same race, but
Right. I'm pretty Mexican last I looked.
But you and I are a couple of white honky racists out here beating women and everything else. Yeah.
No, my wife's got a restraining order on me, even though she's in the next room right now. Sure.
Now, that's what we do here at Dark Side of the Scene. That's the dark side of what we do behind the scenes. And our whole group of people that run this podcast for us do nothing but scrub our social medias and everything else to make it all hunky-dory. I was like, really? That's what we do here? I didn't even realize we had a staff, but that's cool.
But we're talking about that particular person, right? The same one?
Yeah. I think we brought it up earlier on a different episode, but for some reason, I wanted to bring that up again because for whatever reason, I think that has an impact at this podcast, because for some reason, right after that episode aired and right after we started getting all the hate from these random people about all that crap, the podcast itself started taking a nosedive. We were doing good and strong and steady, and then everything just tanked right after that. So I don't know if we got canceled from cancel culture and only the few people that we've interviewed continue to listen to these episodes, or did everyone just drop off listening to a podcast about a dying scene because they don't care about the scene dying, so why do they care about us? And now we're a podcast dying just like the scene it is. But anyways, there has been some other instances going on behind the scenes that I've received lately, and we're not going to name names or point fingers or anything out there, but we know who the people are. They know who they are, and they want to talk about getting people involved of a lawyer because of the remarks that were made by a guest, not even knowing the correct person who actually said something, and there wasn't even anything negative into the sense of naming anyone negative. Right. But you want to threaten to get a lawyer. Continue to make our numbers go up by scrubbing every episode that we have out there. Thank you for that. All you're going to do is help continue the podcast by spreading negative information about us. So everyone that goes out there and talks a bunch of crap about what we do on this podcast, you're throwing the name out there for people to check it out. So all you're really doing is feeding more people a line to us. So I don't know what you think you're doing wrong or what we're doing wrong, but you're literally just trying to destroy us by giving us more exposure. So that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but thanks for that. But other than that,
yeah,
we haven't really heard much of anything positive about what we've been doing. We've heard from a few people that have been on the show and they want to come on the show. And we've had a couple different people reach out. They want to get on some new episodes, which the new episodes will be coming. We're not going to stop the podcast. We are going to go on a short break. We'll start back up in 2024. So this will be the last episode of season 1 of Dark Side of the Scene. So that tonight, you guys are listening to the last episode for a while. So I hope you guys enjoy this. But we're going to change a little bit up of what we do in season 2. We're not sure yet, but we may do some live streaming. Every episode will be live interviews, and then you guys can communicate with us in the chats, laugh at our ugly faces.
Yeah.
Whatever it is you guys are interested in, we'll talk about it. We can ask the guests some questions. You guys can write in some questions. If the questions are ridiculous, probably not going to ask those questions, especially if they're offensive, because apparently that's all our fan base is. Remember, they're abusers, racist, and all sorts of things like that.
Last years.
All 7 of them. But yeah, that's stuff on the horizon. But we're going to go back to talking to Ed now, because Ed has some things on his horizon that is basically going to be taking the rest of this episode. And now this episode's not going to be a long one like they usually are. It's going to be a short and sweet one, just to the point. So,
Woo!
Ed, welcome to the show.
Well, hi. It's great to be here for the first time ever.
Yes.
So, man, I really wanted to add some keynotes to the last thing you said, though, about being lawyers and attorneys, because they directed one of those comments at me, but technically, and in past episodes, I have never said a false thing about a certain establishment ever. In fact, I've been there twice. Because for me, you hear things, and for other people say things, but to me, basically the golden rule, the bottom line is, you're not going to believe anything unless you actually experience anything for yourself. That's how it is. You could hear rumors, and everybody making all these claims, blah, 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 but I'm just the opposite. I'm just I want to find everything out for myself. And then you know what I mean? So for somebody to assume I said something terrible about a certain establishment, it was wrong. I think it's false, because I never thought that. Now, certain individuals express their feelings on this show. That isn't my fault. That is freedom of speech, correct? I can't say oh, don't say that. I'm not, as we're not children here, okay? So I'm not going to tell a grown ass person to oh, don't say that on here. You know what I mean?
We give everyone a warning not to name drop people or places or discriminate. And if someone happened to mention the name of a place, even what was said, it doesn't specify where this place was, because the name is not a very uncommon name for any type of establishment. I mean, it was pretty generic in the first place.
Eat at Joe's.
Yeah. And if you're going to go eat at Joe's, well, which Joe's? There's fucking 18 million of them. So, sure. In the context of that, just because someone said that people involved with an establishment of Joe's is not a great place, that's really not our fault. And it doesn't specify which place in general that it was, because there's certain Joe's all over the place. But in that light, if that is a reason to have lawyers, I mean, maybe this is me being me with a conspiracy hat over here, but if you're that creeped out by some things that a random person says on a show that hardly anyone's listening to, then maybe you're guilty. Or maybe you're not.
I don't know. I never said it either.
Exactly. That's the thing. Okay. No one said anything about anything.
Right.
But if you're worried about what someone supposedly says about rumors, and if you're worried about the rumors, why are you so worried about the rumors? I'm like I said, I don't know one way or the other. I don't care one way or the other.
I don't either. That's why I've said I like to find out for myself about things versus what I hear. I mean, this is the internet. Anybody could say, well, just like the one person calling us racist wife beaters. Not that affected the whole listening thing, because really, you and I would have heard the only thing
the only thing we really heard that back was people supporting us and laughing at the guy for being stupid.
Yeah. I don't really were you guys really this way? But, I never, but going back on what I said about Eat at Joe's, well, it's kind of weird that suddenly our little shitty 7 viewer podcast was suddenly in somebody's light, unless somebody actually said, as almost a cancel culture move, oh man, there's these people on this show that were talking bad about your establishment, man, you should check it out. Are you just placating the situation, that person? Because again, and this is me just being cynical and saying, well, you're only listening because certain people on this podcast you don't like very much, and you're just basically like, what do you call that kind of person? Like
A creep.
eavesdropping in.
A creep.
And if that's what it is, like, again, I invited a certain individual to come on here and talk about stuff, but whatever, this show isn't like a big deal to me. I just like talking to people from like around the country and the world. And, like I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm just saying, I don't understand. So
Some
that's
people
the
want to
only
do nothing but watch everyone else suffer because they're sufferable themselves, if that makes any sense. Like, they
Sure.
are insufferable. So
I guess
everyone
that's what it is.
they want everyone else to be as miserable as they are.
I guess.
And that is the lesson of the day, folks. If you're
Accountability.
accountability, and if you're a shitty person, you typically rub that off on everyone else, and you try and make everyone else be shitty people too. Well, I'm not a shitty person. Ed's not a shitty person. You're probably talking to two of the most open and honest people on here. Like, when we do this stuff, like, everyone knows me. They're like, said I'm an asshole just because I'm honest. Like, I don't sugarcoat things for you. But
But is that really an asshole? That's just like, that's almost like a superpower, because a lot of people are afraid to, like, say what they mean.
I think it's better to be honest than just make up some crap and say something that isn't true.
I think that's my problem too then. Like, because I say what I want when need be, that like it rubs people wrong. I don't know. I feel like society's conditioned to like kind of like you're supposed to hear what you want to hear versus the opposite way.
They don't want to hear accountability. They don't want to be responsible for their own actions. They don't want to hear the negativity that could come from something that they asked. All they want is someone to pat them on the back and say, "Great job, you guys are awesome."
Yeah.
The moment someone has something critiquing or could be looked as a self-improvement, well, fuck that. That guy's an asshole.
Hey, man, like, I guess going to the next story, I kind of wish that I'd heard more people making asshole suggestions, because that would have helped a lot, So,
Yeah, I know there's been some big changes going on involved with your band, so I'm sure the 7 listeners out there that are basically your friends, they are dying to know all the juicy details of the unfolding of what was going on. So,
well,
remember, folks, there's always 3 sides to a story.
3 sides.
There's your side, there's their side, there's the truth, and then, actually, I guess there's more than 3, because then you have everyone else's truth because they make shit up because they have no idea.
Yeah, that's a good time. So, I guess I'll start. So, recently we had to let our singer go. I mean, we fired him. Like, no easy way to say that. And it wasn't just like my decision, it was a group decision. Had the rest had said, like, had they interjected more, then, it would have been one of those like, well, let's see if we could work this out, blah, blah, blah. But it was a unanimous decision. Nobody was like holding anybody's hand back, whatever, you know what I mean? Like twisting their arm. And, me being the most vocal one in the band, I had to put the hammer down, which, that's not a fun thing to do ever, as far as I know. That individual's
being the guy that has to be the bearer of bad news is never fun because you're always the asshole.
Right. And I told everybody, and if many people have listened to this podcast and future episodes, I never want to be in this position for that. But I realized that, like, early on, that certain individuals wouldn't take accountability to run a band. And I was used to doing it in my previous band, like a lot of the other things, I stepped up. You have to. It's going to be work. It's always going to be work. If you want your band to at least get some kind of notoriety or any sort, even we're not talking about record deals, but any kind of thing, make yourself anywhere on the spectrum. You got to put the work in. That's just how it is. Like, PR sucks, but if you got the gift of gab, then, or if you're good with people, then it shouldn't be too hard. And I guess I'm pretty decent, but so what had happened? I don't know how much details I need to reveal. It doesn't matter. Maybe it does. I mean, for the listeners who have always been faced with this situation or had to fire somebody, yeah, it sucks. And usually there's good reason to do so. I mean, it's not like none of us didn't like the guy personally. Okay. So it's not like, but the main thing is, and I hear it all the time on this podcast from other guests, like, if you can't balance the whole family thing or your personal life, like, you should not be in a band. It's that simple. And like, it just seemed like it was becoming a lot more apparent with this individual that he wasn't making time for it. And it was kind of, like, well, like, we had got a new member and he'd worked with him, I should say. They used to work together back in the day. And once this new member noticed he didn't see much of a change in his behavior, then he just kind of kept, I'm not going to say he kept complaining to me about it, but obviously he was not very good at expressing to the other individual how he felt about it. Again, accountability. So I had to keep being like the middle guy and be like, hey man, what's going on here? Like, can we have have a happy compromise here? But like, in a way, like, this kind of behavior had been going on a while anyway. But then it made me think, like, at one point, we've been in this band for a bit. So at one point, can a band be like serious? Or should you take your band serious? Or it's almost like a hobby. It's like, oh, because, I would say I was guilty of, like, if I had overtime, I'd be like, no, guys, I can't come. I need this overtime. But part of me was like, a couple individuals didn't take this band as serious as they should. And it's like, well, if they're not going to fucking take it serious, I'm just going to work, like, and I feel like we loosely got too comfortable doing that sometimes. And like, I don't know. I mean, am I guilty for doing that? Probably, but only because they didn't care. It's like, enough, if that makes sense. I feel like I was putting in some work here, and then, a couple of them were not doing what they should. So part of me was like, well, fuck it. I don't want to like waste my time, but I still came to practice. It didn't matter. Like, when we had to work on something, we had to, but I don't know. Does this make sense? Like, at one point, does a band become pretty serious that you should consider taking it more serious? I mean, it's not like I'm making any, none of us are making money. It's not.
It's still a hobby that you're devoting time and energy to. And if no one else is involved in it, it becomes frustrating, especially if there's one person that's not pulling their weight.
Right.
And if that person is notorious for doing it and it's went on forever, that person themselves probably don't even realize it's a big deal because it's been going on for so long and no one's ever said anything about it.
And yeah, that's kind of pretty much how it was going up until a recent individual joined it, basically brought it up. It's like I knew. Hello, that thing blinked. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
And that individual had pointed that out, and it's almost like you knew that we knew the problem, but like, did we really care enough to take this serious to take care of it? But then, like, slowly, I was just like, well, maybe it'll change, maybe it won't. I don't know. Again, like, after talking to so many like singers on here, all these band members, these wonderful people that will just like bend over backwards for their band, especially like a lot of vocalists, like, it kind of made me jealous. Like, holy crap, these guys are pretty serious, but yet they balance it. Like, it it works for some people. Like, I mean, I guess some people got a lot more motivation to do so. And like I said, I was really jealous of some of those vocalists we talked to that were able to do a lot more for their band than like probably I could ever do, you know? So that was like, kind of was like a turning point where I'm like, oh boy, you know?
So I managed to have a family and manage a band, book all the shows, get all the merch, do all that stuff. If someone really wants to do it, they can make it work.
Right. So it kind of reached the point where we just kind of sat down and said, like, I don't know if this is really going to work with the individual anymore. And the signs were there. Again, everybody brought up their own kind of gripe with the matter. So again, having to be the one to say it. So it happened, and that individual's not happy with any of us. Which is expected. You know, I felt bad. I did. Like, it's not like I hated the guy that I won't, but, and you know, and the person that had the real gripe with it, he actually told him like that was a problem, but he didn't, I should say he said that bothered me, and he told the individual this, but I don't think that mattered. Like, you know, people are set in their ways. It's just stubbornness. And if it's not stubbornness, then like, again, the individual had no more time for this. So, you know, like I said, we collectively did it, and that was it. And yeah, I didn't feel too good. I felt bad about it all. And I mean, because like, that's basically your friend. That's a friend. And then once that goes down, either it'll mend later or won't. I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. I haven't talked to him since.
Most likely it doesn't ever mend well. And then, yeah, anyone that has ever followed Metallica and Megadeth, I mean, not that you guys are Metallica and Megadeth, but at the same time, like, literally, Dave Mustaine has never moved on.
But it's also accountability. What were you doing in the band that was wrong? And like, at last I knew, that person didn't understand why we did it. So again, accountability. It's like all the little things, you know. All
people also have a support system that literally isn't the type of support that helps, if that makes any sense. Literally, if you surround yourself with people that won't actually tell you the truth, and they're going to justify all the bad things that happened. Not to throw my own spin on your own circumstances, but we used to have a guitar player in a different band before, and he was a great dude. I really liked the dude. Still like the guy.
Right.
And he just wasn't as good as he needed to be. And it sucked because I had to be the bearer of bad news. I didn't want to be. And we've never really been friends after that. And then everyone that used to really like the band because he was in the band hates the band, did nothing but talk crap about the band, how terrible the band was. Well, literally, you were buying all the stuff from the band just 2 weeks ago. But now that he's not in the band, we're awful. Yet he didn't write any of the music for the band in the first place that you guys really loved.
Damn. That's hardcore.
So it's like, people that claim that they're fans of the music, are they fans of the music or are they just your friends? And that's the problem I think a lot of people have when they're in these bands, is they don't actually understand, if you're making music for your friends and your supporters, they're not the type of supporters that you're needing, because they're only going to feed you the line of crap that you want to hear. They're not going to be honest about it.
Right.
And they're just going to cover up your accountability issues. They're going to tell you that, oh, they're the bad guys, they're the bad guys, they're the bad guys, and you're never going to look and consider you were actually in the wrong.
Funny enough, we haven't had so much backlash so far. I mean, everybody's been pretty supportive as far as what we did. So, I I don't know if there's any more key points about this whole situation. I mean, it is what it is. Like, the
There's
dark,
al-
it's my own dark side, like I had to let our singer go. Look, so
Now, we don't name names, obviously, and I doubt he's ever listened to an episode anyways. But if he does, you're more than welcome to come on here and talk with us. And if you don't want to talk to Ed because you hold grudge against Ed for Ed having to be the bearer of bad news because he's the one that took the accountability and the initiative to let you know, then you can talk with me. It'll be another one of those Brandon-centric episodes of no Ed because he's busy gardening or whatever it was you're doing that day. You couldn't make the episode.
pulling some roots.
I don't remember what you were doing that day, but I ended up having that one interview.
I was digging up fucking weeds and roots. Got the cops called on me because my friend accidentally didn't deactivate his door alarm. Awesome, right? Awesome.
Yeah. Good times, good times.
Good times. So, yeah, again, just it this happens to a lot of people. It's not fun. I mean, I don't know any more high points about this, but like, so then, that put us in a situation where, we were kind of like, okay, now we got to find a new vocalist. So what's going to happen now? So at first, this was kind of a trip because, we had like kind of people in mind, but there's not a lot of people around this area for, singers, vocalists, whatever. And like, if people have heard our crappy music, like we have singing and we have like, the screamo stuff, whatever, growling. So it's like not easy to find that kind of vocalist at all. So, the one person in my band suggested put an ad out, but you know what? I go, when's the last time you put an ad out? Have you done that? That's not fun. And he's like, but we put one out to get the singer we fired. That's the last time we put an ad out. I'm like, well, things have changed now. It's just like Facebook Marketplace, flaky people. It sucks. I don't want so-and-so to think, oh, I want to join. And then you clearly, like, if it's somebody you clearly don't think automatically they're a part of, they're going to fit in with us. And that individual suggested a few other people that would not fit. I'm like, do you even know the music? Like, like why? Like, that's not our guy. I don't know why you would think that guy would be in this. So, and then he got kind of pissed off. He's not going to hear it. He got kind of pissed off at me because I was basically like shutting down his ideas.
What's wrong with
like,
Scott Stapp, though? You could have rode that wave.
There was one guy he suggested that sounded like that. Kind of like radio rock. I'm like,
butt rock.
Why would you think that guy would be in this band? Like if that's the kind of band you want to be in, you should probably be in that kind of band because that's not what I'm looking for here at all.
You're in your 40s, Ed. It's time to sell out. Start making butt rock so you can start making that money left and right because it's not in metal.
No. But like we actually had a tiff with that guy. He got pretty mad at me because, again, but then he wanted to put an ad out. He's like, what if we get a professional person that's just looking? I'm like, you really think a professional person has time for this? No, like that's not how it works. Like we're not anything big enough for professional leave as professional band. Like unless, and it'd be 1,000,001 shot where we get a professional guy who doesn't want to be in a professional band anymore, but still wants to gig. And then there's those kind of cases, but not where we live.
Yeah.
So we ended up.
I was going to highlight something. You said you had a little tiff with the other guy that was suggesting this thing, one of the band members.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain how it was resolved and who gave you the advice for the resolve? The AI overlord.
The AI overload told me, listen to that certain person, they have feelings and they want their opinions taken. And I'm like, And I'm not even like, I jokingly said like I'm in charge of the band, blah blah blah. But like, I could be honest, I don't think the rest would want to do it, and I don't think that individual should be allowed to do it. I mean, I'm not talking bad about anybody, but some people don't have the temperament, patience for it. And I didn't want, and I keep saying I didn't want this responsibility at all. I hate it. But like, I think everybody gets too comfortable that they kind of forget how to like promote and all that other shit. I'm not saying they don't do it, but you're always kind of, sometimes once in a while you might want to reach out ahead of time. Like next year, maybe I should start reaching out for shows, even though I think of like January and February is disgusting. Anyway, off topic, but like, so we ended up finding an individual who, his name's Josh. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's like Sheener. But anyway, he hit up the band page and was like kind of interested in trying out. And I just personally messaged him, started talking to him. He was in the area. He already knew people. He had not been in the scene in a long time, which was a concern. But at the same time, like, I would think, well, if you haven't been in the scene for a while, maybe you're not going to be tainted. You may, well, in my opinion, it's like the underdog thing. I figured this person may actually not take his band for granted, so we tried him out, another individual, or I'm not naming his name, but he's cool too. We had a third guy lined up, but he never showed up like he said he would, but that happens.
We're going to say that typically happens.
Yeah. So, and that's fine. Whatever, I have no animosity towards that guy. At least he kind of showed interest, but yeah, Josh seemed to showed more interest for us by just kind of coming around, and he actually came to our, we had to play a show without a singer, and like everybody thought it was great. Like you guys sound good without a singer. That's crazy. I'm like, that's weird too. You should be an instrumental band. I'm like, no, that's boring as fuck. I'm not gonna do that. But we ended up playing a show because we owed somebody. Actually, Corey, who's been on the show, we owed him a performance. He didn't want us to cancel, so we just, devoted our time to play an instrumental set for them.
Are you not clinking change?
Oh, you can hear that?
Yeah.
Guitar picks. Sorry, I'm like fidgety. That's loud. Anyway, I use loud guitar picks that when you drop them, they sound like coins. Anyway, so I'll stop that. We did the show. It turned out pretty good. And actually, like, Josh and his wife showed up because he wanted to check out our band. I mean, he cared enough to like drive all the way out there and like, check us out. And he's like, man, guys are good. It's just being instrumental. I'm like, don't say that. So he ended up coming out. We tried him out, and he has a good attitude. Nice guy. He likes to crack jokes. Like, it's the most important thing to find people that you click with and get along with, and who aren't afraid to like take some criticism, because again, like, you're going to find out a lot of adults or band members don't like criticism at all. Like, if I'm sucking somewhere, please tell me. But I am different. I guess. I mean, some people are like myself, but then you'll find somebody who doesn't want to hear you talk about what they're doing. They get upset. They get butthurt. Like, they get really defensive. They take it personal. It's like, if you care about your band enough, you're gonna change enough to make it better. Not because they personally want to attack you. I find that with a lot of individuals, they're very stubborn about being told criticism. And it could be the way people deliver it, but I don't know. Sometimes it's not easy to say, hey, man, stop doing that. They're like, why? But so we announced him this past Friday. This airing tomorrow, right? Correct?
As soon as we're done recording here, I'm going to put it all together and I'm going to post it up.
Yeah, we announced him Friday. It's been positive. A lot of people are like really excited about it. So like, I think we did pretty good.
I have a question about him though.
Sure.
Was he wearing black sleeves or is that his actual tattoos?
That's his actual tattoos. He got them all. He recently got like more work. He's getting everything covered. It's crazy. He's a tattoo freak.
I seen black, solid black arms, and then like little bits here and there. I was like, did he completely cover his arms in just black? It reminds me of that dude from Rage Against the Machine.
I think if I remember correctly, there were things there, and then he ended up getting them blacked out. He's showing us his whole tattoo goal. I guess he likes tattoos. I told him he's a fucking sinner. He's probably listening to this. He's a fucking sinner. But yeah, I took a couple glamour shots of him. It was kind of funny how he did that. But his first show with us is in November, so he's actually coming over tomorrow. So, well, that's another thing. You can say what you want, but being a vocalist isn't fun. And if you got songs that the previous guy had that aren't recorded, well, usually they'll either be cool about everything or not, and usually they'll take their material for themselves, and that's fine too. I mean, it's not like it's a legal thing, if they want to take their material for songs that are unrecorded, that by all means. But then you're left with the situation of having to come up with new vocals and lyrics for certain songs. So again, if anybody thinks of being a vocalist is fun, you got another thing coming. It's not fun. And I told him at any point, let me know and I can help you. And so he came over the one day and we were kind of going through a song, coming up with lyrics. So we had lyrics and we were just trying to find patterns. So to me, I don't mind that. That's, again, part of the band. It's criticism. It's constructive criticism. It's trying to get the band to do what the band needs to do. And for him to be open-minded about trying it, that's great too. So it's not fun, but it's not fun to be a vocalist. Guitar is different. The song's written, just play this. But for a new vocalist to come in and have to think of, new creative means on songs that he's never heard, well, it's a lot of work. So I'm not sure I went with this, but we got a lot of work ahead of us, but I think, and it's good. He comes over and he listens to music when we play it and tries to think some ideas, jot them down on his phone, and then he'll record us with his phone. And so, he doesn't screw around basically. And that's the whole point.
Putting in the effort.
He's putting in the effort because he wants to be there. So I guess in a nutshell, that's basically what happened to us. And we're glad we got Josh and hope Josh stays.
We all hope it works out for you.
Right. I mean, again, it was not fun. It was mentally draining when all that shit went down, to be honest. I was pretty sad about it.
I'm going to say something because I know I won't name drop them, but a couple people, I'm pretty sure they listen. I know one of them we've actually talked to on here. But they've reached out to me about throwing some vocals on some of their stuff they've got sitting around, and I am probably not the person to throw down vocals on anybody's stuff because I just don't ever have time. And I feel like I do. I feel like I don't. But between family life and doing the 2 podcasts and everything else, and I've lost the desire to want to do this stuff. But someone sent me some stuff the other day and it's really, really good. And I really would like to do it, but I've been trying to listen to it. I've been getting some ideas man, I don't know if I have the time and devotion anymore to sit down and try and do this by myself. It's not fun for a vocalist to sit in a basement when their family's around and try and scream into a microphone. It's awkward.
Right.
So it's I don't have free time to do that. I've always got people around. So how am I supposed to be down here? Here are my dogs upstairs and then my kids upstairs and everything else. They're starting to bark or starting to scream and cry because dad's down in the basement murdering somebody.
Yeah.
So,
but the writing's on the wall there. You could see yourself not having time to do this versus bullshitting.
Yeah.
You're taking accountability for what you can't do.
And I've already been upfront about it. Man, I'll look into it. I'd love to do it. I'd love to help out, but I don't know when I'll be able to do this. So,
right.
I think it'd be different if it was an actual band where we got together and did stuff, because I'd make more time and I'd be more enthusiastic about it. But if it's
Right.
because I'm literally just doing it by myself, I don't have that desire, if that makes any sense. Like,
Right. No.
it's not fun in the sense of going out and playing shows and everything else. To me, it's like, oh, I'm going to throw some of my subpar vocals on a song for someone else that could probably get someone a lot better. But that's just me. I'm always a Debbie Downer, I guess.
Well, I mean, part of it is like chemistry and like actually jamming with people. Like, you don't get the same feeling when you're doing that in your basement. When you actually get with like humans with noise and loudness, it's like you feel something.
Yeah.
So
I've had
I mean,
4 or 5 people in the last year message me about, hey man, I got some tracks. You just want to throw down some vocals. I was like, I mean, that's not really what I'm looking to do. I'd rather do a band than just contribute vocals here and there.
no, I get that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just all about jamming with people and having a good time, because like at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun. It really is. But when it becomes work and a fucking hassle, which sometimes, in the past, I feel like when I was saying about I didn't want to go to band practice and just did like worked a lot of overtime because it wasn't fun to me. It was just like, I mean, well, we're going to screw around or actually do something, because, I'm not going to quit. Now, honestly, like, now that I say that, there have been a few times where I was tempted to quit and play like bass for another band, because those other individuals are not as motivated as they should have been. It was just like, it would have been fun just to play bass in a band, not worry about it. I was tempted to quit. I mean, I'll admit that. I mean, if you can't waste other people's time. That's all it's, when it comes down to it. Don't waste people's time, because you're just wasting time, and that's not fun. And then the fun gets lost, and the band is not really fun anymore. And it's like, I would hate. Yeah.
When there's other people involved and they devote their time and they devote their energy, and especially people that are our ages, where we're not young kids that don't have freedoms anymore. We all have jobs, we have families and all sorts of shit. When you have a set time to be there and you don't show up, and when you do show up, you half-ass it and you don't want to be there, it literally brings it down for everybody else. And sometimes you just got to get rid of the dead weight. And I've said that about everything I've ever done. It sucks, but it's part of it.
Yeah, it does suck when you see that problem, but it's like, hey, you kind of want to wish it away or wish things would get better, but like, you can't wish and shit in one hand, or how they say it. It's
You can't wish in one hand and shit in the other and see what fills up quicker.
Yeah, and like, I feel like, and I say it all the time, man, I tell people like, grown-ups are fucking stubborn, dude. I hope to God I'm older, but I just hope I don't get that bad when I get even older, because adults are stubborn. They don't want to, again, take accountability, or they're just stuck in their ways. And I don't understand why people are that way. Like, it's just annoying as fuck, but that's just, and since the dawn of mankind, I guess it's just, well, so
that's
I do want to add like some of the guests on here that have been really cool, and like hearing their stories, especially again, back to the vocalists that like do a lot for their band. Like, that's fucking admirable. Like, that's, like I said earlier, I was really jealous about hearing those kind of things. Like, damn, like, it's all I've ever asked for out of somebody, like, and if you're not going to do it, don't look for the glory of it. Like, we have a certain member of our band who does not care about the glory, who hates social media, but he's such a damn fine, kind individual that it's cool, his place in the band. And like, that's okay. If you don't want it, I told him, if you don't want your hand in that kind of pot, that is fine. He doesn't brag. He doesn't boast. He's a great drummer. But like that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. If you're not gonna want the glory and stuff, or if you want the glory, whatever, do the work. Like
I want to give a pointer to your vocalists and other vocalists out there. Don't be the stereotype. Fucking help carry gear. That seems to be the one thing that a lot of people always bitch about vocalists when it's time to load up or unload. They're never around.
So many memes about it.
I always help with shit.
I know, because the sooner the better. The sooner the better you go home, or the sooner the better you can watch the other bands play, whatever, and then you can go like, what do you call it? Social networking. As soon as you're done with your band, you can go social network, but don't do it prior, because then that makes you look like the stereotype. Oh, hey man, I'm the vocalist. Well, my band's like packing up and loading. I'm going to talk to you. Like, no, people.
Sometimes vocalists have to go over to the merch table. I'm guilty of that.
No, that's because, and that's fine. That's fine but that's the control you have. Sometimes you have to do that real quick, and that's a different case. But like I'm talking about, like if they don't, that's not their responsibility. But, don't be the meme. Stop being the meme.
Well, I didn't want this one to be too long, so we can wrap this up. But again, I wanted to remind everyone that this isn't the end of the dark side of the scene. We're just going on a short break. We do have a few interviews lined up. The process of how we're doing things from now on is going to change. I think we decided there are going to be Wednesday nights. Is that correct? I believe. Wednesday nights will be the only night we do an interview. We're not going to do like 4 or 5 interviews a week like we were doing before. So we had so many episodes ahead. We're going to do 1 interview a week on Wednesdays. And the discussion is we're going to do those live. The episode will still air on Mondays, like this one will too. But the live episode will be live streamed, I believe is either Tuesday or Wednesday nights. I think it's Wednesdays, but I have to check.
Where will be live streamed at?
They will be live streamed on our YouTube and I believe on Facebook. I think I can multi-stream. We have a few months to figure this out.
And they get a makeup kit.
So that means we'll be talking to you live. We're going to have to make sure that our backgrounds don't look stupid. Make sure that we don't look stupid, even though there's no help for that. And
will people like chime in also? Will there be a chat?
I hope so. That is the plan, is there's going to be a live chat. I've been hopping on this other podcast that they do, and they do live streaming on Monday nights. And I popped on 2 episodes, like randomly. Someone asked me if I wanted to hop on there and talk about some stuff from the other podcast. So I hopped on there. And this past Monday, I popped on there. And then I realized real quickly I should have not have been reading the comments in the live chats on YouTube, because those motherfuckers are ruthless. And it's like the goddamn Wild West. So I'm thinking that is the route I would like to go. And it might help the podcast a little bit more because it's more interactive. It's not, we record episodes in June and they air in the end of October.
Yeah.
Like there's no connection with anyone. It's like we've lost touch. We've lost base because we did so much at first, which was cool. I enjoyed having all that stuff to do, but at the same time, it became very taxing. Kind of got burnt out after like a couple weeks of nonstop 2 to 3, 4 interviews a week. But now that we went on break, since we've been on, basically, you and I have been on hiatus from recording these episodes for about 3 months now. And we're going to be on break again here for another couple months. But like I said, sometime in, I believe it should be January.
Right.
Is when we'll start up doing these live episodes. I believe we have some of the interviews were scheduled for December, but I'm thinking I might switch them up until January. I'll reach out to those guests and say I'd rather we do these in January. That way we can start fresh. We'll have all this stuff figured out. Gives us 2 months to get everything prepared. So anyone listening, we don't have hardly any subscribers on YouTube. If you would like to participate in these live chats. I really suggest you go find the Dark Side of the Scene YouTube page and subscribe. And then I believe it'll also be on Facebook. So if you're on our Facebook, it'll be streaming on there as well. A lot of people are iffy on streaming on Facebook and talking to people because they know who you really are. So you can't get on there and talk shit to us because we'll know who's doing it, and we know who the haters are.
Do they like Fago?
I don't know. Fago and Kung Fu blows, maybe. Whoop, whoop. I don't think we have haters from the Juggalo side. I'd actually like to interview some ICP. I think they'd be a good time to talk to. I'm sure they have some interesting stories to share.
Right.
About
Just like
people
everybody
throwing
does.
human feces at them. That's
We're an equal opportunity podcast, clearly.
yeah, we don't give a shit who you are or what you done.
Right.
I mean, if you're out there promoting hate and violence and everything else, that's usually most death metal bands anyways, but that's not really true in the sense of...
Right.
So, yeah. We don't promote abuse. We don't promote racism. We don't promote any of that stuff. We're not what our review that we can't remove says.
I don't think that dude mattered.
It didn't matter. It's just frustrating, but hey, I hope he has a speedy recovery after he got ran over by that car. Godspeed, sir. Godspeed.
Yeah, that was weird.
Looked like he got splattered like a fucking bug.
Well, I mean that we should invite that individual on, but like, who posts themselves after getting hit by a car, like actual selfies? That's fucking weird.
I don't know. He's probably on some sort of meth or something, and he was on some god tier powers, so the car he just bounced off of it.
That's a little. There's something wrong with somebody who gets hit by a car and then immediately starts posting selfies about it. Like, you should probably be checking. Like,
He's probably in the hospital.
Well, no, I think he did it after. Well, I don't know. Anyway. We'll not give that guy any attention, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's some fucking weird people out there.
But yeah, we're not going to have an outro song tonight just because I don't feel like having to edit all this stuff. There's I mean, unless Ed wants to send me a song, I guess I could throw one on there from his band. But
nah. Also, I guess I forgot to mention that, like, before we go, like, we're gonna have a new sound because Josh does not sing clean vocals at all. And at this point, I didn't care. It was just like, well, whatever. You know, there's been bands that go opposite, and there's been bands that go the other way. Like, let's say Veil of Maya, they got a clean singer. I feel like that affected the music a lot more. And not in a good way.
I like them a little bit better with some singing.
I mean, it's not as chaotic as it used to be, man. I still love it.
It's personal preference.
It is, but like, sometimes it doesn't matter. Like, I think we're in a society now where, like, dirty vocals, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if there's a clean singing, you know, like, so that's going to be a little bit different with our sound. Everybody's like, well, what about the other songs with the clean singing? And well, he's just going to scream them. I mean, this, you know, unless one of us like decides they want to sing and play, then it's just going to be a new formatted sound, and hopefully people dig it more. I don't know. I think I don't think we can really fail.
I was never a fan of the clean singing. I've been vocal about that for 4 years.
Well, I mean, I've heard many, to be honest, like, I've heard that several times now that that individual's not there, that they didn't really like the clean singing either. And I'm like, well, I wish, you know, that's one of those things. Well, why didn't you tell me before? But then what could I say? Hey, man, don't do that. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it means a lot. It's hard to hear that sometimes. Like,
I'm just an asshole. I don't care.
Well, no, I'm not saying you're an asshole. Like, I've heard it several times that, like, I wasn't a fan of the clean singing, to be honest. So I'm like, oh, I mean, you can't make anybody happy. So at this point, if you're just going to be like a screaming, growling band, I think nobody cares. Or like, I don't like the screaming. You mean that's like every band?
No.
Anyway, just want to put that tidbit before I leave. So
It's all good.
yeah,
But we're going to wrap this up now. So before we do, if you want to be on the new and improved Dark Side of the Scene, Season 2, what do they got to do, Ed?
reach out for Brandon at darksideofthescene.com or reach me and I'll give you his email address. I wonder if like they just don't want to do it. If they reach me, then they're like, why do I have to reach this other guy?
You sent the emails. The reason they need to email me is because I'm the one that has all the schedule and I'm the one that does the main recording and all the editing. So if you know Ed, you tell Ed you want to come on the show, he's going to tell you to talk to me. That way I can put it in the schedule. That's all.
Yeah, that's a PSA right there. It's not like I don't want to like have you on. It's just he does the scheduling and he gives you a little calendar so that you know when you go. So I don't have to remind you. You get sent emails. So that's why I send them to him, not because and I don't want to talk to you.
What we've done in the past is we have a waiver. This waiver is a legal document that says you will not sue us for using your recording of your vocals, because when we're having an interview, you're basically giving us permission to come on our show. But what that also does is when someone comes on the show and wants to say negative things about other things, we are not liable for that.
Well, yeah, that goes back to the beginning session, the first.
So anyone listening that again wants to think that they know more than what they know, we have documentations that show that we are not liable for what people say, and we're not. So again, when I ask you to come on the show, or if you ask to come on the show, or you ask Ed, he's going to send you to me. I'm going to send you a waiver form, and I will not book you unless you fill out that waiver.
Yep.
And if that's a problem, then you probably won't be on Dark Side of the Scene.
Sure.
But on that note, we're going to end this one on a high one. Happy Halloween, everyone. Spooky season is here. We'll see you.
I tried to do my Dracula and I coughed. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
We want to interview you. Yes. But on that note, we will see you after the holidays. Good night.
Good night.